Do you want 4 magic power phrases to help you respond to anyone, especially if you're dealing with a toxic situation? I've got those magic power phrases for you now. Hi, I'm Rebecca Zung, and I am an attorney. I'm also a narcissist negotiation expert, and I'm here to help you, especially if you are dealing with somebody who's making you feel disempowered in a situation. I am the best-selling author of the book Slay the Bully: How to Negotiate with a Narcissist and Win. And if you're new here, welcome. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, I welcome you to do that now. The first thing that you are going to want to do is think about your triggers. I'm going to give you your phrases, but you want to also think about your triggers. You're going to want to think about, how does it make you feel when these people are making you upset, right? If you're feeling like they're getting you upset and your breath is quickening and you're getting out of sorts, right? What do you want to do? You want to like stop. You want to pause. All right. So that's the first thing that I'm going to say to you is just pause. And that's actually an acronym that I want you to just have in at the ready is pause. All right. So just P is the first part of the pause. And so pause and breathe. It's just take a moment to pause and breathe, because that's going to help you when you have that emotional reaction to somebody in that situation. All right, so just take a moment to pause and breathe so that when somebody is coming at you in a toxic situation, and instead of going right at them with anger or something, just go, wait a minute, let me pause and let me just think of it as in a curious situation and just say, wait a minute, I'm curious. I'm curious. Tell me more. All right. So take a pause. And that first magic phrase that you're going to say to them is, I'm curious. I'm curious. Tell me more. Because whenever you can take a pause, instead of reacting with anger, you can react with curiosity. That will help you. I'm going to give you an acronym, which here is pause, but I'm also going to tell you to react with curiosity instead of anger. Take a pause, manage your emotional triggers, and also react with curiosity instead of anger. Pause stands for PAUSE. The first letter is P, and that stands for pause. Pause and breathe. Take a moment to breathe and prevent that impulsive reaction that you might have. And then the A stands for acknowledge. Acknowledge your feelings. Again, you can, instead of anger, you can just like acknowledge your feelings, identify and accept the emotion that you might be experiencing. Because when you're dealing with somebody who's coming at you, they might be toxic, they might be making you feel defensive, then you can be like, wait a minute, I'm going to take a pause. I'm going to take a step. I'm going to take a breath, because anytime that you can do that, then you don't give them that moment to be baited, right? Because anytime that somebody can bait you, then they are going to have that upper hand. Because whenever you get into that emotional quagmire, then they're going to have that upper hand on you. So anytime that you can react with curiosity instead of anger, then they're no longer going to have that upper hand. So that's why I'm saying to you to take that pause. You is use rational thought. Challenge your immediate thoughts and rely on factual reasoning. So remember, you're going to say to them, I'm curious. Tell me more. I'm curious. Tell me more about what it is that you're thinking. Because if you say something that's going to react in anger, then that person now has the best of you. I always say they go fishing and then they go baiting, and then now you're down in the mud with them. And then S stands for shift. Shift your focus. Shift your focus from your standard responses. Ground yourself into neutral phrases. That's what we're talking about here today. Neutral phrases to manage your interactions, so that you're managing your interactions with them. I'm curious. Tell me more. What is it that you're saying to me? I'm curious. Tell me more. And then E is excuse yourself if needed. Step away momentarily if it's too emotional, if the response is too overwhelming. So the first thing that I'm telling you is take a pause. Take a pause to manage your emotional triggers and use curiosity instead of anger. So anytime that you can respond to somebody with curiosity instead of anger, you're going to be much better served. You're taking that pause. So the very first phrase is, I'm curious, tell me more, because you're using curiosity instead of anger. But I'm also telling you to take that pause, and pause stands for what I just told you that it stands for. Does everybody get it? All right, so take a pause, and I want you to put that in the comments below. Take a pause. I already gave you one magic phrase to respond to anyone in any kind of situation, no matter what it is, so that you have that toxic situation happening. You've got a phrase. But remember, you're taking a step back. You're the one who's now in control. All right. And remember, the E is excuse yourself if needed. You can always excuse yourself if you need to. The next one, phrase number 2, is that's interesting. Why would you say that? Again, it's more like curiosity instead of anger. That's interesting. Why would you say that? You're not reacting with anger. And the other reason why I suggest that you use a phrase like this, especially if you're negotiating with somebody like this, and as an attorney, I tell you this, especially in a negotiation situation, is that you're always wanting to know more about what the other person is thinking. And if you can get it where you can dig into more about what the other person is thinking, then you can actually start to learn more about how you can get the upper hand on them. And I know a lot of times you're sitting there thinking, I don't want to know what they're thinking. I don't want to know anything about them. But the answer is no, that's not true. You always want to know more about what the other side is thinking. You always want to gain more information because information is power, information is leverage. So you always want to know more psychologically about what the other side is thinking because you can always use that against them. That becomes something that you can use down the road, and especially if you want to make the other side feel like they're being seen, heard, and validated. And when you're dealing with a toxic person always wants to feel seen, heard, and validated. Oh, that's interesting. Why would you say that? That gives you the upper hand once again. And then once again, take a pause. How do you manage your emotional triggers? You take a pause and breathe, acknowledge your feelings, use rational thought, shift your focus to standard responses, excuse yourself if needed. And then, that's interesting. Why would you say that? 2 phrases that you can use so far. I'm curious, tell me more. And then the second one, that's interesting. Why would you say that? The third one, that's interesting feedback. Now, once again, you're like actually telling them, oh, I like your feedback. Thank you. What makes you think that? Especially if the person just put you down. If they think that they put you down. Okay, great. That's interesting feedback. What makes you think that? Dig into why do they think that about you? Let them explain. Instead of going, what? Actually let them go into it. Let them tell you their side. Let them give you their arguments. Let them give away their side of the story while you sit there and take notes. Just take a pause. Don't feel the need to defend yourself. I always say never jade, even though I love jade, never justify, argue, defend, or explain, because you're going to take a pause. Use this opportunity to gain information, gain knowledge. You're collecting. So I'm curious. Tell me more. That's interesting. Why would you say that? That's interesting feedback. What makes you think that? You got to take your ego out of this thing. Check your ego at the door. Just do some information gathering over here. You're just pretending like you're reporting the news over here. So that's 3 out of 4 so far. Never give away your leverage, by the way. And you just keep your emotions out of this thing. You're just looking at things factually. And you can't take things personally, especially when you're dealing with somebody who's toxic. Because when you're dealing with somebody who's toxic, you're not dealing with rational, you're not dealing with reasonable. You're never going to get them to see your side. You're never going to get closure. So you might as well just kind of look at it as a game. So the final thing is that's an interesting perspective. Why would you ask that? So I'm curious. Tell me more. That's interesting. Why would you say that? That's an interesting feedback. What makes you think that? That's an interesting perspective. Why would you ask that? And just put it back on them. Don't allow them to let them see you sweat. Don't allow them to make you think that you're upset because you keep hanging around in the conversation upset, not triggered, and not emotional. You might actually gather some information. Now, it's not an easy thing to do, right? So if you're finding yourself triggered, if you're finding yourself upset, if you're finding yourself defensive, or any of those other things, you got to take yourself out of the conversation. You can't continue to be in the conversation. I do recommend phrases for disarming narcissists. If you need them, you can go to disarmthenarc.com and get my phrases for disarming narcissists. I highly recommend those if you need them. If you need them, they work great for emails, texts, all sorts of things. Disarmthenarc.com. They're totally free. And my free private Facebook group is also a great source of support, which you can go to, which is Narcissist Negotiators with Rebecca Zung. Definitely check that out for sure. That will help you. And so go to my free private Facebook group for support, disarmthenarc.com for free phrases for disarming narcissists. Get the help and support that you need in the areas that you can get them. I'm curious, tell me more. That's interesting. Why would you say that? That's interesting feedback. What makes you think that? That's an interesting perspective. Why would you ask that? So 4 phrases, 4 magic power phrases to respond to anyone in any situation, no matter how toxic, no matter how angry, no matter how they are, but you got to take a pause and you got to make sure you're managing your emotional triggers and you have to make sure that you're responding with curiosity instead of anger. I want to know how this sounds to you, how it works for you, what you think of this so far, and if you think that it's going to be able to be good for you, and which ones you think you're going to start working with right away. The next video that I want you to watch is Fight Back for Instant Respect. 5 must-know responses to take back your power and control against narcissists. And if you like this video, make sure you like it, make sure you share it, make sure that you have subscribed to this channel and hit that notification bell. You know, we are creating a huge community here of people who are helping each other, supporting each other, helping each other become powerful against people who are dealing with toxic situations, difficult situations, and we want you to become a part of it. I can't wait to see you in that next video. Remember, today's a great day to start negotiating your best life. I'm so excited that you are here. Remember, they only win if you give in, and I will see you in that next video. I'm Rebecca Zung. Remember, that next video is Fight Back for Instant Respect, 5 must-know responses to take back your power and control against narcissists. And I'll see you in that next video.